Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig. If you're a musician, I made a special 3-question survey for you at everyonelovesguitar.com/survey. Again, musicians only. Complete this 3-question survey at everyonelovesguitar.com/survey. Alrighty now, let's do this. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber and welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. I'm with another really cool guitarist out of the UK with Scott McKeon. Scott's given a lifetime of dedication to playing guitar, and he was initially inspired by his dad's love of the blues, soul, and rock music. Started playing guitar at the ripe old age of 4, and he's developed a reputation of one of the UK's most in-demand guitarists, both in session work in the studio and performing live. And I will tell you right now, probably 5 or 6 guys have told me I need to interview Scott. So that's not just like bullshit words on paper. He has a great reputation. He was raised in Dorset. Where's Dorset?
South coast.
South of where you're at now.
Yeah. So literally on the coast in the middle.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Pretty much above the Isle of Wight.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, very cool. He grew up in Dorset on a diet of Buddy Holly, Eddie Cochran, Chuck Berry, Gene Vincent, Hank Marvin, and other 50s rock and roll music through his dad. Okay, I was going to say 50s. You're like probably 10 years younger than me, I would think. I don't know how you listen. You got that from your dad. Okay.
Yeah.
His dad's was Jeff McKeon. Jeff was a successful guitarist as well with his own band called the Diplomats, and they actually opened for the Beatles and Jerry and the Pacemakers in the early 60s. If you don't know, Jerry and the Pacemakers are a huge band in the UK with offers to go to Germany to perform as well. By the time Scott was 8, he was playing a full-size Strat and was the face of a Fender ad campaign. At 10, a friend of Jeff's showed Scott and his dad a videotape of when Scott was 10, a friend of his dad's showed both of them a videotape of Stevie Ray Vaughan performing at Austin City Limits, the show that pretty much everybody knows. This ignited Scott's love of the blues and set him on a path to discover more about Texas blues players and artists like Jimi Hendrix, the Three Kings, and Clapton. In 98, Scott won Guitarist Magazine's Young Guitarist of the Year, and he wrote and performed his own song at Wembley Arena, which is really freaking cool. Shortly after that time, Scott's dad unfortunately passed away when Scott was just 13. But at that point in time, he was actually fronting his own blues band and playing most weekends in pubs and clubs around the south coast of England. In 2014, Scott got a call to play in Sir Tom Jones' band along Robbie McIntosh and Pink Floyd percussionist Gary Wallace. He's still working with Sir Tom, and he's played on 2 European tours, 2 tours of the US and South America, as well as Australia and the Far East, as well as TV appearances on shows like Later with Jules Holland, one of my favorite shows, man, and other music shows. He founded his own band called Rufus Black in 2017 with UK blues soul singer Gavin Conder, guitarist Ben Jones, drummer Russ Parker, and bassist Leighton Allen. Their debut album, Rised Up, was influenced by British blues bands like Cream, Free, and The Faces. It was released that year and met with critical acclaim. They've been growing their following and packing out venues and festivals across the UK and Europe. The start of this year, 2018, saw Scott playing with one of his musical heroes, Eric Clapton, as part of the house band for a charity event along with Paul Jones and Friends, which also featured Van Morrison and, again, Sir Tom Jones. Scott, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Man, you turned out all the lights in there, man. Are you like smoking weed or doing something I can't see?
Yeah.
I don't judge. It's all good.
It feels really bright. I was just trying to get into it,
No, turn it off, man. Go ahead. You turn it off, light a candle, put some incense on, smoke a doob, whatever it is, man. It's all good. I had a guy on here come on and he was smoking weed and drinking. And I was just like, wow, how do you do that? I couldn't do either of those things and have an interview, man. It was just wild. Anyway, Thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show. At 18, a CD of yours was passed on to Paul Crawford, who's Mark Knopfler's manager. He loved it. What's that?
I was just agreeing. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
He started managing you after that, and from this, you wound up releasing your first LP, which was called "Can't Take No More." So I have a few questions about that. First of all, congratulations on the effort in doing that.
Thanks.
What was on that CD? Why'd you pick Paul Crawford in particular, and how'd you get the CD to him?
Well, yeah, it was kind of a weird connection, actually. Me and close friend of mine, a guy called Ben Jones, who's in Rufus Black now, it's the other guitarist. He used to play drums with me, so he plays drums and guitar. And we took it upon ourselves. He was a couple of years old, or he's a couple of years older, and he lived in London. And he was like, well, why don't you come up to London? We'll record an album in his flat. So we kind of set up all the gear and stuff, and we didn't really know what we were doing, but just as like you could record onto computers. So it was just at that point at which you could kind of get like a really professional recording and do it at home. Yeah. You know, probably must have been like, I don't know, 2001, 2002. And so anyway, yeah, we did this recording. We were like, right, we need to mix it. So we were like, well, we haven't got any speakers. And you know, the black and white speakers that you always see in studios, NS10s, we were like, if we hire some of them, we'll be able to mix it, and it'll be like, it'll be like Thriller, because we'll have the same gear that they use for that. So we just looked I think it was the Yellow Pages. We just looked and it was like, all right, audio equipment rentals. And we saw there was a place called FX Rentals. So we phoned up. This guy answered the phone, and he was like, "What, FX Rentals?" And it was this guy called Oz, who's probably a few people listening will know who he is. This guy called Oz, who worked at FX, and he was really cool. And he did us a good deal on these speakers. And he said, "Oh, when you've recorded the album, drop us the CD back in." So we were like, "Okay, cool." So about a few weeks later, we sent him this CD, which was probably, if we were to listen to it now, it's probably pretty bad, but it was kind of like bluesy, rocky kind of stuff, shuffles, and we finished it and gave him a CD when we took the speakers back. And I think he must have given it to a guitarist called Jacko Jaksic, who is a guitarist he plays in King Crimson at the moment, but he used to be in Level 42. Sure. Famous pop, I don't know what you call them, pop funk.
Yeah, pop. Yeah, I call him pop. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And he really liked the CD. So Oz must have picked us up to Jacko, and then Jacko gave the CD. He must have been friends with Paul, I guess, and gave him the CD. And Paul Crawford is, I guess, he's always on the lookout for something. Being a manager, he's always on the lookout for like something
next
new.
Big thing.
Yeah, next thing. And so I think he was quite taken with the fact that I was sort of 17, 18, maybe even younger at the time, playing this kind of adult music in a kind of way that was quite, it was a bit different. It had a bit more, we weren't just doing like blues covers. We were kind of trying to do something different with it. And yeah, he called me up not that long after, and he goes, "Oh, hi Scott, it's Paul Crawford here." Well, he doesn't talk like that. Actually, he's like, "Right, it's Paul Crawford." He sounded like Peter Cook, I didn't know if he was someone taking the piss, to be honest, but I'm going to come down to one of your gigs next week. So it came down to his pub, but we didn't. He sort of said he was a manager, and we didn't know who he was. Sure. And there wasn't much information about him online at that point. So we were like, who is, is this some dodgy guy?
Some guy scamming you, yeah.
And when we had a terrible gig, actually, I think we all fell out because, there was this important guy here at this gig, and we all thought we played terribly. But yeah, anyway, he ended up signing us to his management label. And I guess in hindsight, it was pretty cool because,
hell yeah,
we suddenly had this sort of platform, and Paul's support, and he had some pretty big contacts, in the music industry. I mean, obviously Mark Knopfler, but he could pretty much get you like any support gig you wanted. So if you say, you know, I don't know, Buddy Guy's playing at Shepherd's Bush Empire next week, you know, that'd be a cool gig to do. He's the kind of guy that could just make one phone call.
Wow.
Be doing it, you know. So yeah, we signed as a band. I think we were called Divided by Three. I think Paul wanted to sign me, but then because we were in a band, we were all kind of like the same age. It was like I wanted it to be a band, you know. I didn't want it to be like just me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's pretty intimidating at that age to like be by yourself. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do?
Yeah, and when you're in a band with mates, you're like, well, that's, you know. So we all ended up signing to him, and I think we really pissed him off quite early on because we had. I mean, I think at that age as well, you don't take it that seriously. So, you know, it was kind of stupid, but I think he booked a photo shoot. You know, that was like the first thing. You know, right, we need to get some good photos done. And we had this photo shoot in London, but we somehow managed to miss it.
Oh my God.
I think Jeff, the bass player, had like a parking ticket thing, so he had to like sort that out, and then he was late picking me up, and then something else happened, and yeah, we basically missed the photo shoot, which was only like a couple of weeks into the management contract, and yeah, it didn't start off great.
Yeah,
Paul's not the kind of guy you want to get on the wrong side of.
Nobody is at that. You know, when you're at a certain level, your time is so, you know, you don't have patience for that shit.
Yeah, so it kind of started off on the wrong foot. But yeah, it was cool. I mean, I think we were just too young to kind of like take it seriously enough, you know? I mean, because a manager kind of, I guess the role of a manager is they can't write songs for you. They can't rehearse for you. They can't, you know what I mean? We used to have like a rehearsal room every week, you know, like every Thursday we'd rehearse, and we just mess around, you know, like smash the drum kit up or like go to the pub or something. So we didn't like in hindsight, I sort of think, God, that was such a good opportunity. Like we should have been writing, we should have been, you know, recording stuff, like chasing Paul about things. But it kind of just, yeah, at that particular time, I don't think we appreciated what we had. So
did it fall apart?
Yeah. So the outcome was that the other guys, Ben and Jeff, left, and then it was just Paul just managed me, and yeah, we managed to get an album together. Can't Say No More, which was quite a bit later actually. That was sort of maybe 4 years after he signed us. That was 2006, I think. That came out. Yeah.
Did he kind of like take you under his wing and say, "Look, you know, you need to take this more seriously"? Or
yeah, I think so. I mean, the other guys were sort of musicians in their own right, and I don't think they were. We were sort of signed under. It was kind of my band, really, like doing, you know, me fronting it, doing blues stuff, you know. So the others were already a little bit like, well, this is Scott's project, you know, and we're playing with Scott's songs and for Scott. So yeah, he was like, well, I want to work with you. So it was a bit awkward as friends because you had to kind of, you know, it was like.
Well, the problem is they didn't know what the music business is like, and that's what it's like. You're going to be working for, if it's not your friend's band, you're going to be working for someone's band as a sideman, unless you're an artist, which is, you know, fewer and fewer. And I guess you don't know that at that time. You think, oh, we're a band. You know, you think the Beatles or whoever, you know. Exactly.
Yeah, I think everyone wants to be the Beatles, certainly, but you have to put the work in, really. And I think at that particular point in time, I think Paul would agree if he's listening that we were just pissing about most of the time. Embarrassing.
So ultimately what happened after you dropped Can't Take No More?
I signed a record deal with that led we already had the album recorded, and that led to a label called Provogue in Holland picking up on it, and yeah, they released it, and then everything kind of stepped up a bit after that, because before then I'd never really had anything that had been any good, really, that had been recorded. And I guess one of the main things with that, the reason that came to be, is a guy called Jesse Davey, who's a guitarist, really good guitarist, who used to be in a band called The Hoax.
Does he also make pedals or something? I've heard I've heard his name.
He makes really good pedals. He's a pretty interesting guy, really. But I kind of knew of Jess and The Hoax. I was a big fan of theirs. And the cool thing about The Hoax is that's sort of, when we signed to Paul and we were trying to be a band, that's sort of who we were following, was The Hoax.
Spell that, Hoax, The Hoax?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hoax. And they'd split up a few years before we got signed, so they weren't really around. But they'd left a bit of a mark on the kind of UK blues scene, really. And they were quite inspiring because Jess was, I don't know, he was very influenced by like Steve Ray Vaughan, the Texas blues thing, or the whole band were. But they had something else about them. They're a bit like Britpop, and they did a lot of the kind of production on their albums themselves, and they had a cool cult kind of following and stuff. And so I got to know Jess a little bit, and he suggested sort of like producing an album for me. And he's kind of got this. It's hard to sort of sum Jess up in a short, without going into sort of too much detail. But he's a really talented guy because he can turn something, like I did. The recordings I handed him were like kind of bedroom demos, and he turned them into an album. He had this real way of sort of turning
chicken salad into chicken shit. I mean, chicken shit into chicken salad.
Sorry, yeah. He's like that with a lot of things. Like he makes his own pedals. He can just like create something out of nothing, basically.
That's great, man.
Instantly, and he actually does a lot of film stuff now, like music videos and films. And he's always done that, where you could look at one of his music videos and you'd think, wow, that must have cost like hundreds of thousands of pounds or something to make, and the budget must have been. And then you just found out that, well, he just did that in his bedroom. But
man, there are a few guys I've seen like that here in the States. They're so talented at that, and it's like really amazing how, if someone knows video well, and it's tremendous. Like you said, you look at it and you're like, holy shit, who's doing big budget MTV videos now? And it's not. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and he really helped. I sent him over the sort of tracks that I'd recorded. Just recorded them myself in the lounge at my old parents' place, and he was like, "Oh, can I mix a couple of them?" So he sort of sent over all the stuff, and he kind of worked his magic and sent them back, and that's what became the first album. So we added a few bits and changed a few things, but that led to me getting a record deal with that company, Provogue
out of Holland. Yeah. Now he's in the States now, Jesse, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's in LA.
Yeah, okay. Because someone turned me on to him. Ariel, do you know Ariel? I think you do. Yeah. Ariel turned me on to him because he mentioned him. He spoke very favorably. Real sharp, and he couldn't really describe. Same thing. It's really hard to describe, but he's like really talented.
I think Jess was into magic when he was a kid. I think. And so he's he's a bit like a magician. He's pretty clever with stuff like that. Yeah, you could probably give him some ingredients for something. Like if you just gave him like a banana and a toilet roll or something. I don't know. He'd probably like
turn it into a nuclear detonator. Yeah. Man, here's a funny story. I mentioned the Beatles. So Anne, my wife, is from the UK, right? I told you that, and this is really funny. So the first time she's at my apartment, we've been together 26 years. The first time she was at my apartment, I said, "Do you want to hear some music?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, sure." I said, "Do you want to put some music on or something?" She goes, "Yeah." And I'm thinking, I said, I'll impress her. I'll put the Beatles on because she's from the UK, right? How stupid is that? Anyway, So I put the Beatles on. She goes, "What is this?" I said, "It's the Beatles." She goes, "I can't stand that kind of music." And she was like dance disco or dance, dance music, whatever, which I don't know anything about. And I luckily found Marvin Gaye. I had like a happy compromise. I'll never forget that. Anyway, somehow. No, she's into like disco music. She's not into rock.
Yeah.
It's just really funny though, because I'm thinking I'm going to I'll show her. I know exactly what she wants, but somehow we survived that. Yeah. Man, well, okay. So after that first album came out, is that where the record label supported you and they had you opening for some major artists?
To be honest, they didn't really do a lot. It was mostly Paul, really. He was pretty cool in getting me gigs and sort of making things happen. I mean, it's difficult because how I look back on all that stuff now is a bit, I was passionate about it at the time. Like the only option for me was to like do my own thing. So I kind of, for years, that's all I put my energy into. Now it's a bit different because I do more session stuff and I'm kind of not in that mode so much. But back then that's all I wanted to do. And I think I made a fair amount of that happen on my own, but it never I don't look back and think, wow, it's amazing because we got to tour the world. It was never quite became that successful with it. Do you know what I mean? It was always a bit of an uphill battle, and Paul would call in some really, really good gigs every now and then, but a lot of the time it was kind of hard work. Like I don't remember the record label doing anything, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, and this was back in 2006. It was like when things were just starting to go south.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't remember there being like any great push to, I mean, if it was going to get reviewed in a magazine or guitar magazine or something, it was kind of me that had to like sort that out, or kind of through someone I knew, or Paul would sort something out. I don't really remember the record label doing much, so I don't want to slag them off too much, but
no, but it is what it is, man. I mean, you can't you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit for the most part. I mean, it is what it is. What you opened for some pretty cool people. Do you have any cool stories about some of those experiences?
Yeah, I'm trying to think who we opened for. There was a cool gig that we did opening for Sonny Landreth. So this must have been about there, 2006, 2007. But we kind of got wind that Eric Clapton was going to be in the audience. Oh, wow. So I think we had a good gig actually. We really went for it. But it was really embarrassing because I think this was actually just before my album came out. And so we didn't have copies of the album yet. So we only had the old CD, which was the
one that before Jesse. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So we were selling that at the gig, but it was like, we were only selling it to make a bit of extra money. We were like, oh God, it's really embarrassing. We were selling that. And a friend of ours, like a sort of friend of the band's, came backstage to us and he was really happy with himself. He's like, oh, I've just seen Eric Clapton. And we're like, oh, cool. And he goes, yeah, I just gave him a copy of your CD. We're like, why have you done that?
Oh my God.
It's like the worst, it's like a sort of demo we did, And I remember getting really pissed off at him. And anyway, so after the gig, we were sort of hanging around backstage, sort of waiting for Eric to come back. It was a tiny little room. And Eric walked in. And he was like, hello, all right. And he goes, yeah, I've got your CD. And we were like, I actually said to him, I think my first words, I've only met him twice, but the first thing I ever said to him was like, yeah, that CD you've got, don't listen to it. It's rubbish.
It's rubbish. By the way, do not listen to that.
Yeah, just this sort of backward mentality of, you've got this great opportunity and you're meeting this like guitar legend and you're just like, yeah, don't listen to my CD, it's shit.
But it was honest. I mean, I get it. I don't know that I wouldn't have said anything different, to be honest with you. What do you you got one shot, like you said. You know, if he's going to put it on, it's going to be crap, and then it's like, if at least he's preempted and say, "Hey, it's a bad recording. The record's coming out next month, whatever." Then he's like, you know, then he can listen to it and then then he'll be fine. He'll be looking to find the good in it and knowing, you know, no, I thought it was. I don't think this. Yeah. What was your choice? You know, hey, you're really going to dig this thing, and then he listens to it and says it's rubbish on his own, and you're like, fuck. You know? No, I think you did the only thing you could have done.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, there's some good support gigs. They kind of sort of culminated in I opened for Joe Bonamassa at the Albert Hall.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was a bit later. That was kind of, it was like 2008 or 2009. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And actually, Clapton was at that gig as well.
Now, what band was this? Was this with did you have new guys, or was it just like studio guys, or?
After Ben and Jeff, I'm really good friends with Ben.
Still.
So he's kind of one of my oldest friends. So we survived the sort of fallout of all that period. And
good.
He was a real sort of influence, actually, even though we didn't play together, he was just into different stuff. So he was into like R&B and soul music, and he's in the time that we stopped playing together, whilst I was still doing my stuff, he was doing a lot of session stuff in London, all kinds of things. So he was like a real, I don't know, he kind of exposed me to a lot of other music that I wouldn't have otherwise heard.
That's great. Did he get you into session work as well?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
He helped me with all that. So yeah, I kind of owe him a lot in that respect. But yeah, after Ben and Jeff left, we ended up I went through loads of different people trying to find drummers and bass players, and it was kind of a difficult thing, really, because the original band that we got signed with, like Ben and Jeff, they were really good players, and I always wanted I always wanted to be in a band with them. So you're kind of in this position where you're having to like get people in, and you know, and
you don't want them there no matter who they are, just because it's not Ben and Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Paul, my manager, was always kind of like, "Well, there's not really any money to pay anyone." You know, most musicians that are kind of, you know, you need to pay them.
Yeah,
like if they're not in the band, then they're hired. You know, they're
sidemen.
Yeah. So I always found that difficult. And anyway, we ended up playing. There was a guy called Tom Latham who played bass for me. He was really good, and a really young drummer called Phil Wilson, who's he plays with a guy called Lawrence Jones, who's a guitarist, UK guitarist. And we kind of happened upon those guys, and they were a good. They did the majority of my gigs from sort of 2007 onwards.
But one thing you should acknowledge yourself, and I want people listening to hear this, is that none of this would have happened. I mean, the trajectory wasn't what you wanted. Mm-hmm. The net result might not have been what you wanted, but man, what a cool little journey it was for the time. None of this would have happened had you not made that CD. Yeah, and that's the great thing about hindsight, isn't it? Yeah. You can appreciate that. At the time, it all felt very frustrating because you know, I wasn't really earning any money through doing my own music. So it's like a lot of that time I was just living at home. Right. You know, and you're kind of like trying to be a cool musician and rock star, yeah. Star on tour, and it's like I can't even afford to like do anything. You're like, Mom, I'll be home in 2 hours. And singing like kind of blues songs like "Left my baby this morning." Yeah, yeah. It's not really like the hobo Robert Johnson. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but you know, honestly, and you know, people listening to this need to take that away, that none of it would have happened. I mean, you can't control the end result, but all you can control is what you do. And if you hadn't made that record, none of this would have happened. And look, everybody's got to pay tuition in anything they do. That was your tuition.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, it was a good time, and you know, opening for all those people was pretty cool. You know, did quite a few gigs with Joe actually, Joe Bonamassa,
yeah,
around Holland and Europe and stuff, and Phil and Tom were great. You know, it was a really good little outfit.
Yeah,
it was at the time, but I think some of it was sort of like, some of why perhaps it didn't work so much is that I wasn't really ever a frontman or a singer. So the guitar,
I was wondering about it. You were singing all those gigs.
Yeah, it's trying to. Yeah, I mean, out of necessity, really, because until you meet someone like Gavin Condor who sings with Rufus, you know, I didn't know any singers or anything, so it's like I was kind of, I just do it because I didn't at the time. I didn't know I couldn't.
Yeah, you didn't know. Well, plus, man, if you're dividing this little pot by 3 and it's not fun, now you got to divide it by 4. It's like, fuck it, I'll sing.
Yeah.
No, seriously. I mean, you know, I've been there in others, not in that situation, obviously, but you know, you got to do what you got to do, man.
Yeah. So it was. I can't remember where we got to.
No, I was saying that, you know, this all happened, and even if all you learned, because you dropped the CD, even if all you learned out of that was what you don't want to do, you know, that's as valuable a lesson as anything else, you know.
Yeah.
So I give you credit for doing that, man.
And met a lot of people through doing that, you know. I mean, you know, Paul was really good at kind of, you know, got to meet Mark Knopfler and a guitarist called Robbie McIntosh.
Sure, I know who Robbie is. Played with Paul McCartney for years, didn't he?
Yeah. And obviously Jacko, who was the guy that passed on the CD. You know, Paul was great at kind of making those things happen. And I think he only wanted the best for us, you know, or best for me. But it was definitely like a tricky to know where to place what I was doing, because, like I said, I wasn't like a natural frontman or singer. So and we were kind of doing blues rock kind of stuff. And I think it's a tricky one. And there's not many people that cross over from kind of pub gig territory to
Albert Hall,
to the Albert Hall, like Joe Bonamassa. So it's a tricky one anyway. Even if you're doing well, just to get out of doing pubs and little clubs and stuff is quite a tricky one. And I think we started to do a bit more than just that. But I don't think it was ever going to be like much bigger than it was, purely because at the time I don't think I was confident enough as a front man or a performer to do that, you know.
Well, plus, how old were you? You're like, what, 22 in 06, 07?
Yeah, I'd have been like, 21, 22.
Man, that's really young.
Yeah.
That's really, I mean, I don't, most people don't know what's going to go. How do you know, that's a very young age, man.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But I think like it's a great experience doing.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, you know, are you still in touch with Paul?
I haven't seen him in a while. I did bump into him a few times. I mean, I separated from Paul in 2010, I think.
Before you released your second album or after?
It was after that, yeah. So I did another album after that, which was
Trouble?
Yeah, Trouble, which was kind of we were talking about trying to get out playing pubs and get out of the blues circuit a little bit. That album was what that was trying to do. It was a bit more, I guess, in the John Mayer sort of vein a little bit, kind of a bit more
singer-songwriter a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what we tried to do with that one. But then you end up in this weird sort of ground. You know, if you're from a sort of blues guitarist background, and that's the kind of music that you do. So you've gone from shuffles and slow blueses and more shuffles to then like just suddenly doing like a kind of pop album with choruses and, you know, songs that you kind of, a bit more radio friendly songs. It's a bit weird for any of your fans that are like into the blues stuff, because the first album, really bluesy, like kind of Black Keys, Gary Clark Jr., sort of fuzzy guitars and sort of swampy kind of thing. And then the second album was suddenly like sort of, nice pop,
chick songs.
Yeah. It was. I think it was a bit. I don't think we really knew what we were doing, other than like, let's just try and be like John Mayer because he's really successful and he plays a blues guitar.
Did you not have any guidance on that from like who produced the second record? Did Jesse produce it again?
No, it was kind of self-produced, really. Yeah.
And wasn't the label or Paul like giving you guidance of hey?
I think a bit, but I think it was just kind of we weren't big enough, or I wasn't big enough that there was that kind of guidance or thought process. It was just like, we need another CD. But
who paid for who paid for the recording?
Well, probably Paul. Yeah.
Hey, you'd have thought he'd have been more involved in it if it was on his. Number.
Yeah. I think
it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it hard to look back on that period because for me it all went a bit tits up. So
I get it.
I tend not to sort of dwell on it too much because, not long after that, me and Paul kind of went up, parted.
Had a falling out.
So, it's a tricky one. I don't know. I think maybe my headspace was a bit weird, and I just maybe being young and just sort of like, oh yeah, I can do a pop album and it will suddenly take off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a tricky one. Yeah. I'm a little bit embarrassed by all of that. So that's why there's not much of it online and,
I totally get that, man. Yeah. No, I think everybody's embarrassed about something they did in the past. So it's no different than anybody else. Just you're a musician and I think everybody's done stupid shit.
Yeah.
that they wish they didn't do. I know I have.
Yeah.
So then you release a second album. You wind up licensing some music from that. Yeah.
So Paul, again, his contacts, he got us a song on Guitar Hero, the computer game.
Yeah. I'm not that old. Like the computer game. Fuck, I know what that is, Scott. Give me some credit. Good God.
To be fair, I don't even really. I don't know what it is. I've never played it.
Oh, because you don't have kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So Paul was pretty cool at kind of sorting out stuff like that. I think he got it on some other stuff as well. Maybe an advert or two.
That's great.
So he kind of came into his own and really helped us out in other ways. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a big way. Because did that get you into licensing?
What do you mean by licensing?
Licensing, licensing your catalog or starting to put songs together to license them to get royalties from movies, TV, adverts, stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's what they call licensing here.
But again, it didn't. Haven't done anything that major with that side of things. But yeah, he was definitely great like that. And I think in relation to why he didn't get involved in the album or anything from a music perspective, I think he just didn't. He manages things.
Yeah.
So he's good at all of that side of things. He's not a producer.
Sure. Hey, to his credit, good for him, because I hear a bunch of horror stories on the other end where the managers just shit and didn't give a damn about you, and they got involved in everything, and it was like, whoa. Yeah. You're my manager. You're not my producer. You're not my mom and dad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Paul's he's an amazing guy for making stuff happen, and I think had I been a little bit further down the road with it all, it could have gone a bit further.
Yeah.
But I think maybe for whatever reason, it just kind of didn't get to that point. Plus, it's just really hard. I think, I don't know what other guitarists have to say, but I think just doing anything that's like kind of a guitar or a blues based thing and making it successful. I mean, it's tricky.
It's very tricky.
It's not an easy thing to do, and it's a hard thing to do well. I didn't want to just be like a kind of blues prodigy doing kind of like cheesy kind of stuff. I did want to make it like have a new take on the blues with it, or do something different with it. And I think it's just really hard. I think it's a tough one. The kind of guitar, young guy playing blues guitar thing. And I don't know, especially being English. There doesn't seem to be loads and loads of people who've kind of crossed over in recent years. I mean, back in the day, I guess it was different.
Yeah. Matt Schofield.
Yeah.
He's done a good job. One thing too, and not to like put a sadness on it, the fact that you were operating solo, your dad passed when you were a really young kid, not for nothing, as an older guy who didn't have any guidance when I was little, I can tell you right now that definitely probably played an impact, because when the musicians, the one thing that's very consistent is the guys that had really strong support at home. Like 98% of the successful musicians had very strong support at home. And if for whatever reason it's not there, even if there was like dysfunction in the house, the fact that they had support was a very helpful thing. When you don't have that and you're a young person, man, it's really hard to figure out which end is up. I didn't have it, and it was extremely hard for me. Yeah. So maybe there was some of that involved too, in all fairness to you. I mean, you're flying solo. Who the fuck? I mean, you only know what's in your head already. There's no way you're going to know this stuff, right?
Yeah. I think it's my dad kind of, I guess, you mentioned earlier about like when I was little, like doing the Fender ad.
Yeah.
That was when I was like, I think I was about 7, and my dad knew a guy called Ivor Arbiter, who was like the head of Fender over here. And he came up with this idea to do like a sort of ad campaign with a little kid playing a Strat. And the kind of tagline on the advert on this poster was "The future of rock and roll was in his hands." It's like me playing, Dude,
do you have a copy of that ad? Because I will use that for your episode when it comes out. I would love that. If you have a copy, please send it to me.
I mean, I definitely have a copy, but it's just, it's quite embarrassing looking back on it. But I guess so cool. My dad had kind of built this, these sort of expectations up, I guess, in my head, of what things were going to be when I was old. I mean, just something like that alone is kind of, there's a bit of pressure there for when you get older, because you're thinking, God, how am I?
I got to deliver on this now.
Yeah. So I think, and he used to take, when I was a kid, I was a bit of a spoiled kid, really. My dad used to take me out of school and we'd go and play gigs, or we'd go to like guitar trade shows.
Oh my God, that's like, how cool is that?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, he'd take me out of school and we'd go to like a vintage guitar shop, and sometimes he'd buy a guitar, and it was pretty cool. But that was really hard, I guess, after he passed away, because a lot of that stopped, and then you kind of got this skin of being a child prodigy, and you're trying to get out of doing that. And I wanted to do something that was credible, and it was kind of tricky trying to find out what I actually wanted to do, because there'd been all this stuff previous to that. Do you know what I mean?
You had like some standard that you, in theory, so and just to navigate all that alone is very difficult. I know from my own experience, so I totally understand that, man. Life is tough enough when you got somebody giving you a hand. When you're doing solo, it's fucking overwhelming sometimes. Especially as a young person.
Yeah, I mean, I still had a good, really good support. My mum was great, and she always, would help out where she could. But and I think it's just difficult. As I was saying, just doing the blues guitar thing and trying to do something original with it, especially when you're only like 18, 19. I think it's a really tricky thing unless you're just doing the sort of, copying sort of Stevie Ray Vaughan or copying Hendrix or copying Clapton. It's quite a tough world to kind of know what to do. Do you know what I mean? Well, I'm still kind of trying with it.
How did you, after that, you moved to London?
Yeah.
How long did you live there for?
So I moved to London in 2009, and I was probably there till about fairly recently, 2015. So
what made you? What made you move back?
It's just expensive.
Yeah, no, it is. It's like living in LA, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's worse.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's pretty expensive. And the kind of the main thing that happened when I was living in London is I realized how many other guitar players there were.
Yeah.
And like when you do the kind of blues circuits and, you're in that blues world, you're quite isolated because you just go off and you do your own gigs and you're not really out playing with other players a lot of the time. You might open a show for someone like Joe and you might go up and jam with him or Sonny Landreth or whoever, but you're you're not really kind of cutting your teeth too much. Especially not with blues music in London, listening to the Denny Freeman thing, part of what sounded so cool about that is that when he was in Austin and they were like the house band at Antone's.
Yeah, that was cool.
Freddie King coming down for like a week or something, or
Buddy Guy, or and
they'd be the house band. And I'm guessing that pretty quickly, if they did something wrong, they'd get kind of, get looked at or get a.
Yeah, there's no wiggle room there. You're opening when you're supporting guys like Freddie King.
Yeah, whereas I think this is the problem with a lot of kind of younger blues guitarists in the UK is that there's almost not that kind of discipline involved with it because there's not the scene or there's not, I mean, in the 60s, sort of, not that I was there, but, Clapton, Beck and Jimmy Page, plus all the people that we've never heard of that were probably around at the time. There must have been like a really good kind of competitive spirit in the air where it's like, you've seen that new thing Jeff's doing, or have you seen what Clapton's up to, or this, and I think I was never around. I never had a scene like that to kind of where you'd kind of get competitive with people and try and outdo each other. And I think that's quite healthy.
Hell yeah,
in music. But I sort of had it a bit when I moved to London and I started realizing there was all these other guitarists that weren't into blues, so like my mate Ben and different people you'd kind of watch. And that for me was quite healthy, suddenly like realizing that like there was more going on musically than just blues. So I almost pretty much when I moved to London is when I stopped doing my own thing. Because I just didn't think it was good enough or going anywhere or going in the right place, and I wasn't earning any money from it. So I just kind of like started again a little bit and started doing session stuff. And
you became very busy as a session player. How did you get all that work? Like, how did you get turned on to it? How did the doors start opening for you?
Through friends, really. Just, getting out and meeting people. And like I said, Ben started calling me for things. One of the first session gigs I did really was this pop singer who was in Girls Aloud called Nadine Coyle. You probably haven't heard of them over there.
Man, I'm not, the word pop in me, I just don't have a very big, unfortunately, extensive vocabulary in pop music, man.
Yeah. So I ended up getting thrown in the deep end by just doing this gig, which was like just about the most, as far away from like a blues gig in Holland as you could get, or a blues gig in a pub with this pop singer, Nadine. But it was kind of really, I really enjoyed it because I'd never been paid properly for a gig.
I was going to say, you're probably making money for the first time.
So they're like, yeah, we're rehearsing for 2 weeks at John Henry's, and this is the money and for the rehearsals, and this is the money for the gigs.
And you're like, holy shit, you get paid for rehearsals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. And we're sort of playing.
You're like, are you short? I can give it to you back.
So I just couldn't believe it. So that for me kind of, it sort of sounds bad, but I would, because, you hear people saying, well, you shouldn't give up your passion, and, you shouldn't, you should just stick to what you believe in. But which I do, which for me is playing music.
Right.
It's not just playing blues or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not 100. I've never 100% been like just a blues player or just a rock player or something. So to do something like that, which was totally out of my comfort zone, I found really inspiring and really good for my playing, because suddenly you're having to play music that you haven't played before, pop or rock, or and play parts and learn things, and get different ones, and like, can we get a certain sound on the chorus, or can you? So I was probably terrible looking back on it. I probably didn't know what I was doing, but it was quite a good way of getting a foot in the door. Doing session stuff.
Man, I think, like for me, my experience has been, I've been self-employed for 20 something years, and I've done a lot of projects. A lot of them haven't worked. And my own conclusion on all this is, if you're killing yourself and there's nothing opening up, you gotta change. It's because, and I don't need to sound, fairy dust, but the universe is not supporting that. It's not where you need to be. And when things work for you organically and doors open up and things almost come to you, you're in the right place, like karmically. And I hate, and I hate to sound like, the universe, but that's what I've observed, man. And you call it whatever you want. If you're religious, call it God, whatever. But to me, when things work and you're happy, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
I think you're right. And I think you can't follow someone else's path as well, so if
bingo,
it's easy to kind of, think, well, Hendrix moved to London and then this happened and then he was, but it was
that was his path.
That was his path. And it's Jimi Hendrix. It was the 60s. He was out of this world, playing guitar. It's like his personality, the way he looked, the way he dressed. It's a different time. And I think people get caught up in, or I do anyway, of sort of like, well, that'll be me one day, but it's just sort of like, you're not suddenly going to become something you're not, if you know what I mean.
I totally know what you mean, man. I've done, yes.
Yeah.
And I've done projects that have succeeded financially, but I've been miserable at them because part of it was I was following someone else's path. Mm-hmm. And it was like, and even though I was making money, every dollar was like fucking squeezing, a tiny drop of water out of a giant dry towel. That is not fun, man, making money in that situation.
Yeah.
So I totally get it, man. Things just have to line up, and when it works and you're feeling good, and just my own personal evaluation, when the universe is supporting you and feeding that, and you say, okay, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I think the thing with doing blues music and being kind of like a white English guy that's maybe been brought up sort of middle class. I'm not suddenly gonna turn into like, Stevie Ray Vaughan or something, because you're a totally different person in a different environment. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's easy to get hung up that like on you've got to find your own sort of path with it all, and a lot of that music doesn't exist in the same way. You know, in the early 80s, there was a need for like blues music to come back because no one was doing it.
Right.
But if you go to any of the blues gigs now, it's mostly people still rehashing all sort of Stevie stuff, or ZZ Top, or stuff that was around that second or third generation of blues players that came out in the 80s. You know what I mean? So Sure. It's like, it's not. Oh, I don't know exactly what I'm saying, so you can probably cut this bit.
No, but let me tell you something. That being said, everybody that referred me to you said he's a great blues player. So you may be not being forgiving of yourself for your past mistakes or past, indiscretions, whatever. As far as even, do you know who Anto Drennan is?
No, you've mentioned him, but
he was the guy that first told me to get hip to you. He goes, you need to check out Anto's. First of all, he's a wonderful human being, beautiful guy, and he's an incredible player. He's a guy in Ireland. He's played all over Mike and the Mechanics, Genesis. He's a top session guy and a brilliant player. And he said to me, you got to check out Scott McKeon. He's an amazing blues player. And Anto saying you're a great anything is like, so this is a guy not even in, Ireland's close, but it's not England. This is a guy not even in your country telling me you're a great blues player. So something's got to be working for you beyond what you're thinking.
Yeah. I think, sorry, I feel like I've gone a bit negative with chatting about.
No.
Or the kind of Paul side, getting signed in my albums and stuff is something that I kind of don't focus on too much now.
Yeah.
So it's something that I was quite sort of hurt, I guess, by the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I've just kind of put it to bed, and it's like, I don't dwell on it too much now.
You shouldn't, man.
Yeah, it's weird kind of thinking about it because it brings up all these other emotions that you kind of,
Man, a good friend of mine, I was having a rough period and I was thinking about stuff I've done in the past, and this is a while back, and called up my buddy, and I was kind of down. He goes, Craig, look, stop looking in the rear view mirror. That is never going to serve you.
Yeah.
And he was so right. And it was, I heard that message, and I was open to hearing it at that time. And so I really aware of that now, and I don't do that anymore. But man, the truth is your past, all of us, everybody listening to this has fucked up something. Your past has nothing to do with your future unless you decide to make it having to do, it's mutually exclusive unless you elect it, so I totally get it, man, but you're doing something right. Cause everybody that has mentioned you to me said he's a great blues player, man. So
yeah, well, blues, I love blues music, for me, it's like, it's when I play, it's just something that comes out, and I don't think about playing blues or whatever, it's just, that's, but to me, it's like so closely related to, rock and roll. Blues and rock and roll and country music stuff, it's all pretty much the same, coming from the same place.
Sure.
So from listening to, when I was a kid, like listening to Buddy Holly or then listening to Lightning Hopkins or something, to me, it's kind of pretty similar. So I don't
I'm a blues guy too. I love blues, and that's all I play usually when I'm playing guitar. So I feel it. Hey man, let's talk about, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I guess it's hard not to feel a little bit of not a fraud when it comes to blues, but you just know that it means something different to me, because to me it's so far away from where I live or what I do or the way I was brought up, that it's more like you're kind of paying tribute to it, or I'm a fan of it and I love it and I respect it, but it's not, I can't, I haven't lived it. Do you know what I mean? In the same way, I mean, we've all,
Yeah, but you don't have to live, you don't have to be a weatherman to know it's raining out.
True. Yeah.
I mean, you could just play music because you like it. You don't have to,
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are guys playing classical that grew up in the projects and they can't, it doesn't mean they don't have the right to play classical music,
Yeah.
So don't worry about that shit, man. That's just one thing that's good as you get older, all that shit washes away. You just say, hey, man, I'm enjoying this and I don't really have to justify this to anybody. So that'll all wash out. Promise you, man.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about gear for a few minutes. You started out playing that Strat at 5. And I see you mostly playing Strats now. What's your go-to guitar, and what other guitars would round out your top 3?
So, my main Strat is I've got it here actually. Should I show it to you?
Yeah, man. Is that the Sunburst one?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful guitar.
Yeah, so I had this.
Nice, man. That's really vintaged up. Is that a relic, or is that just beat the shit out of from all the years?
Well, I've had it for 20 years now. I got it when I was 12.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's kind of mostly just through, just being knocked over. And
that's beautiful, man.
I think people think that it's been more knocked about than it has, but the paint on this guitar is it just comes off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like nail varnish or something. It just comes off. But yeah, that's
what year is that?
1962 Strat.
Wow. That's a beautiful guitar, man. Just absolutely gorgeous. And it's a rosewood neck, it looks like here. It's right? Or is it a rosewood or ebony? Rosewood, yeah.
Rosewood, yeah. That's been, I mean, my dad and I, my dad got this guitar. I guess sort of for him as well.
Yeah. You probably wouldn't buy a 62 Strat for your kid at age 5. I wouldn't.
Yeah. But I remember on one of those days that he used to sort of take me out of school and we'd go up to London and go guitar shopping or hang out at, go to a recording studio or something. We went to a guitar shop called New Kings Road Guitars, which is was run by a guy called Fat Rick.
Everyone knows Fat Rick. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Fat Rick. And he was like, oh, there's this really nice Sunburst Strat you got to check out. And even though I didn't know loads about guitars, I knew enough that when I picked it up, I was like, oh, this is amazing.
So I think most original pickups in there, Scott?
Original pickups, yeah. It's all original apart from the little things that kind of wear out. So like bridge saddles and frets. And
that's amazing, man.
But yeah, he got it. And I think my granddad had passed away not long before then. And he left me a little bit of money, like £1,000. And I think my dad put in the rest. And I think we paid £5,000 for it then.
Wow.
Which was a lot of money then, but probably if you walked into a shop now and there was a 62 Strat, they'd probably be like 25 grand.
Probably more than that, I would imagine.
Yeah. So
that's great.
It was a bargain.
Yeah. That's great. It's a beautiful guitar too, man.
Yeah. It's everyone that plays it kind of, it's hard to beat. It's kind of, I was pretty lucky getting like a guitar like this,
I've heard you play it, and even on the shitty sounding YouTube videos, it sounds great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
Yeah, it's got just a sound to it. I don't know if it's just where I played it so much as well, Oh, it's probably part of you, that guitar, no? Yeah, it's like, I don't even have to think when I play it. So it's pretty cool.
What would be number 2?
Nothing really comes close. I don't really have any kind of order. That's definitely number 1. But I had a copy of it made recently.
Fender Custom?
Yeah, Fender Custom shop copy of it. And
dude, does Fender sponsor you at least? Because you've been playing a Strat for 30 years.
Yeah, they should do. Yeah, I did have a deal with Fender.
Okay.
I don't know. To be honest, they changed. I think I had a deal with them about 10 years ago, but they always seem to change the people in charge.
Yeah, so you have to start all over.
So, yeah, I don't know who's in charge now, but yeah.
Well, Fender, listen, if you're listening to this, all this guy plays is Strat. You know what? I always think like guys that only play one guitar, that's the guy you got to sponsor. Because, most guys are playing 5 guitars. They got to deal with Fender, but, half the nights are playing a Gibson. That's all you're playing. You're the guy that should get a sponsorship, man.
Yeah. Yeah, send me some free stuff.
Yeah. Hook him up, Fender.
Yeah. No, they've been cool. I did get a copy of it made recently, so I've got one that looks pretty much identical to it.
They relic it as well?
Yeah. I'll grab it. So you can see. But you probably can't tell the difference over here.
Yeah, they did a great job. Well, yeah, the remaining paint is shinier than yeah. But how does that feel? Or so basically, let me just describe it to the listeners. It's another Sunburst Strat that's been the relicking. They did a very good job mimicking yours, but the patina on the paint is a little too shiny. The remaining paint than yours is. Yours is like got dulled a little bit, which is appropriate for a 56-year-old guitar. What how does that feel or play different?
It just feels like a new pair of shoes, versus like a pair of shoes that you've worn every day, years and years. So it's kind of, I think the more I play it, the more it feels like my old one. But
yeah, that's cool.
It feels a bit new at the moment. I need to just leave it lying around out in the rain or something for a while. Yeah,
do like Rory Gallagher did. Didn't he like just completely abuse his guitar or something?
Yeah. Yeah, I read somewhere that
like you think he left it out in the rain. Actually, I think that was a story.
Stolen or something. But he actually, funny enough, when I was doing my sort of Fender stuff when I was a kid, through my dad, Rory Gallagher actually played my guitar.
Really?
Because it was around the time of the 40th anniversary of the Fender Strat, so it must have been about 94. And there was an event at the Hard Rock Cafe, and I was like, I got up and played.
That's cool.
Johnny B. Good and Apache, and Hank Marvin was there, but Rory Gallagher was there, and he got up and he was like, he needed a guitar, so he took my Strat and open tuned it to G.
Yeah.
I think and played some tunes. So yeah.
What a sadly underrated guitarist who's not mentioned enough. I mean, the guys in the guitar community know him, but even then, I've had like pretty much his whole catalog of music, and it's just brilliant, man.
Yeah.
Great blues stuff on there, man.
Yeah.
What are you playing out of typically?
Well, like amp wise.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the gig, because I find that if you're doing like, session stuff, for example, I'll tend to take out stuff that I know is reliable, that sounds good. So I've got a 2-rock.
All you British guys play fucking 2-rocks, man. Are they like, are they over in the UK or something?
No, I think
Schofield plays one too.
Yeah, I think they're just they're just the best amps.
They love the accent.
Yeah. Should we be playing like Voxes or something, or like?
No, but it's really funny. Like so many British dudes I know are playing 2-rocks. I'm like, what? They're hugely popular here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of that is probably to do with Eli, who runs 2-rock, because he's a really big blues guitar fan.
Okay.
So
everybody speaks really highly of him, by the way. I've spoken to a number of guys that have mentioned him really favorably.
Yeah, he knows Matt really well.
Right. Matt and a couple of guys in the States here, Jeff McElrain. I don't know if you know Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah. And
like that crew, they all play 2-rocks.
Yeah. I think they're just genuinely like some of the best amps like being made. So I think they're kind of hard to beat for like a new if you're after something that's like kind of new, that sounds
vintagey,
but is more reliable than like an old amp.
Sure.
I've got one of my main amps is a Fender Vibe Reverb, which is a 1964 blackface amp, which is kind of like a super reverb. They're all quite similar, those blackface Fender 40-watt amps. I think the main things that change with them are like speaker can, this one's got a 1x15, but the super reverb's like 410.
Dude, I have a 1x15 PV Delta Blues. I am in love with it. It's wonderful, man.
They're cool amps. I'll tell you who uses them. Is Paul Stacey.
He uses a Delta? The Delta?
Yeah, PV class. Is it classic?
No, it's Delta Blues. PV Delta Blues, 1x15. It's got reverb. It's got trem. It's great, man.
Yeah, I've heard good things about them. I think
it's great.
I think he owns about 8 of them. So
Paul has like 8 of them?
Yeah, he has like, I don't know, 100 amps, 150 amps.
Does he really? That'll be an interesting convo with him, man.
Yeah. I've got this old 70s Fender amp. There's one called a Fender Quad Reverb, which is like a twin reverb, but it's got 4 10-inch speakers, and that's pretty cool.
That's a big combo then.
Yeah, I think it was 4x12 originally, so the cabinet itself is massive.
Yeah.
But it's just like...
How the hell do you bring that around to gigs? That weighs a ton.
I tell you that, yeah. I hardly ever take it out because it's just too much to carry. But yeah, that was kind of what I used when I was doing my own stuff. We were touring around Europe and stuff. That was kind of like my main amp, really. Quad reverb.
I had this amp. It's older a little bit, not vintage, but it was like a Gibson 60-watt. I forgot the name of it, but it was a great amp. 2x12, but it weighed 90 pounds.
Wow.
Like I couldn't even move it in my office here. I was like, I had to sell it. I was like 90 pounds. I don't need this. It's like having a furniture, like a bed or something.
I normally try and get someone else to lift the quad, some unsuspecting person. You can just give us a hand. Would
you mind helping me with that?
Yeah, I'll just disappear. I've just got to take this phone call.
Man, Desert Island Discs, top 3 in no particular order, and just for today, because that's an impossible thing to limit it to 3.
Desert Island Discs, wow. I think there's definitely got to be a Beatles one in there. Probably, I'd say Revolver, the Beatles. Off the Wall, Michael Jackson.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm a big Michael Jackson fan.
Loads of guitar players are.
Yeah?
Yeah, loads.
Oh, God. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. Probably something that was like, might have to be, I think it would have to be a Hendrix album. Maybe like Are You Experienced?
Yeah, all of his stuff was good. I'm always partial to Electric Ladyland, but I got the original cover, and I was a young kid. I bought it down in the Village, and I was in a used record store. And I was like, "Wow, this is so cool!" Plus, it had like naked chicks on it, and I was like really young, and I was like, "Wow, this is awesome."
Yeah, I remember seeing that as a kid and just like not knowing what to make of it. I think I used to be a bit scared of Hendrix actually, because I remember I had a video that it was like a documentary thing, and it was him at Monterey, burning his guitar and smashing it up, and I was like this little kid that had just got a guitar. I just remember watching it and thinking, "Oh my God, what is he doing to that guitar?"
Yeah. I think a lot of people were probably intimidated by that. All right, man. Tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
What do I like most?
It's a tough question to ask an artist.
Yeah, tend not to focus on things I like, right? So too much. I don't know. I guess I feel like without sounding arrogant, I feel like I've got a good sense of humor. So I enjoy taking the piss out of people and having a laugh with people.
So let me interpret that. Taking the piss out of someone means, giving them shit, and giving them a hard time. Yeah. No, I mean, that's not an expression that they use. I only know it. I've had all this from Anne, from my wife. I always interpret British. It's the same language, but it's really not.
Because you say, like, if you said I'm pissed, that means like I'm angry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm angry.
So you don't say taking the piss.
Never. No, it's not an American expression. And sometimes it's funny because she'll say things. I mean, she's been here, we've been together 26 years. She's probably been here, I don't know, 31 years maybe. But she'll say English expressions sometimes still at night, like if we're just sitting around or something. And I'll be like, I never heard you say that. And she'll say, of course. And I'm like, okay. But or her mom will say something, when I'm talking on the phone or so.
Yeah. Cup of tea.
Yeah. Fish and chips. What's a perfect day for you?
Probably being in the studio recording music that I'm into and passionate about. That to me, it doesn't really get any better than that when, apart from playing live or something, but playing with other musicians that you love and being in somewhere like the studio. How
often are you in studios now?
Not as much as I'd like to be, because I mean, like a fair amount, but I think that session wise, it feels like there's less work in playing on albums and in the studio than there used to be. And
sure.
Compared, when I chat to people like Robbie McIntosh or Paul Stacey, and they were guitarists in the 80s who did lots of sessions, or when they were playing in the 80s rather. I think there used to be a lot more, and they kind of, you only have to look at like the records that were around then and the musicianship involved, like Robbie playing with the Pretenders, and even stuff that's like kind of pop, like Tears for Fears, I don't know, Michael Jackson, Prince, whatever,
Yeah.
There's a lot more musicianship involved in that era of stuff. So I always like it when you get a chance to get in the studio and kind of be in an environment like that.
Sure.
But yeah, not as much as I'd like, really.
Do you do tracks at home?
Yeah, I do sessions at home. There's a lot of that. I think there's a lot more of that kind of thing of, people. I don't think people have the budgets that they used to have for making albums and making records, or even things associated with that, like adverts and, I don't know, TV.
Well, you know what else I think? I think the listening standards have been watered down a bit because of, like I'm 55. So when I listen to music, I can hear the difference between a drum and a synthesizer or a fake drum, a beat. I don't know that my kids can.
Yeah.
They're in their late 20s. So I think that has been watered down. So therefore, hey, we don't need to do this because less people are paying attention to it or aware of it or whatever. So I think there's some of that going on too.
Yeah. I mean, I remember chatting to the guy who used to own my guitar, by the way. I forgot to say this. A guy called Terry Britton, who's a famous songwriter, guitarist. He wrote What's Love Got to Do With It for Tina Turner.
Oh, yeah. He used to own your Strat.
He used to own my Strat, yeah.
That's really cool.
Chatting to him about, when he was doing sessions in the 70s and 80s, playing guitar for people. And he said he used to do like 3 or 4 a day. So he'd go around all the different studios in London. In the morning he'd do a TV advert, and then he'd do a theme song to a TV show or something, and then he'd do a film thing. And he'd be doing like 3 or 4 sessions a day, every day, around, in and around London. Which I don't think that exists in the same. I don't think the studios are there. I mean, so many studios have shut down.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it exists in the same way anymore. But
you know, it's funny. I'm echoing. Do you hear an echo from me?
No.
Okay. I saw something online last week that it's this old studio where Pink Floyd did a lot of their work, and maybe Trevor Rabin or Trevor Horn.
Trevor Horn, yeah.
From Yes owned it. And it's this big, beautiful house, and it's like abandoned, like the whole it's like his mansion with this massive Pink Floyd studio, and it's like a band, like it's just nobody owns it. It's just sitting there rotting away.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy crap. But then I thought of it like, well, you probably have that in your house for like $2,000. Yeah. And you do the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
Because technology's really come so far.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. Most people can, if you need a bit of guitar on the track, you know, you can just send it to someone and get them to do it. You know, you don't have to, you know, book a studio, book an engineer, all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. That's for sure, man. Most important person in your life?
Well, probably. It's got to be my mum, really, I guess. Yeah.
Are you an only child?
No, I've got a sister. Yeah, my sister Holly, who's a little bit younger than me. But yeah, probably my mum.
That's another word we don't have, mum. I call my mother-in-law mum now because it's mom here, M-O-M, and you guys are M-U-M. Yeah, but I call my mother-in-law mom. Yeah. You have any non-musical superpowers, Scott?
What kind of things? What have people said before?
Man, cook a mean spaghetti. You know, really good at like fixing shit. All kinds of different things. No,
it's just the guitar playing, really. I like cooking and stuff. I'm pretty shit at a lot of things, apart from playing guitar.
That's not uncommon, man.
I think I don't know. I mean, to me, I'm just not that interested in. I mean, I'm interested in films and, you know, food and stuff like that, but I'm not that interested in many other things.
Yeah.
Outside of music. For me, music is like the main thing. You know.
Totally get that, man. Favorite place you've traveled?
I like America. Whenever I come,
really,
whenever I come to the States, yeah.
Where do you like?
New York. I mean, you're talking of like having the perfect day. For me, like waking up in New York, going for like a coffee, having some sushi for lunch, checking out some vintage guitar shops. Buying a vintage guitar.
Man, you're buying it in New York. It's the most expensive place to buy it. Yeah. That's the only downside of that, but yeah.
We did a gig with Tom Jones. When was that? About 2 years ago. And it was pretty much that day that I was just describing. And then in the evening, we played with Tom at the Beacon.
Yeah, great place to play.
And that was as far as days goes.
Let me ask you something about that. I've interviewed a bunch of guys that have played with Tom, and he used to have like a band in the UK and then a band here. He wouldn't, but now I guess he doesn't have that.
Yeah, as far as I know, I think. I think he used to have. I think it's just us kind of doing it at the moment, but
he used to, because I interviewed Shem Von Schreck, who's Toto's bassist, and he played with Tom for a while, and that's what he said. And I don't know if you know him, and my gosh, I interviewed another guitar player I can't think of off the top of my head, but it was the same thing where Tom would basically, you know, just come over here and have a separate band.
Yeah. I think some of that is because they like changing it up, you know.
Yeah.
They kind of, you know, it makes Tom sing slightly differently depending on who he's playing with. So I think sometimes Mark, his son, likes to kind of mix it up a little bit for Tom's sake, so that it kind of puts him in a different place when he's singing. But yeah, I think we've been the kind of main band. So I just walked up the stairs. I'm out of breath.
No worries. The other thing that I've heard is that Tom is like physically one of the most strongest, demanding. He's like a powerhouse still.
Yeah, he's made of like different stuff.
Yeah, they said that's what this guy said. He goes, he's like Scottish miner that is still 30 years old. Yeah,
I mean he just is. He doesn't seem to like do jet lag or do tiredness. Some of the tours I've done with him have been pretty full on, where you're flying quite often. The European tour that we do with him, which is normally in the summer, is on a private jet. So you're constantly, all the gear goes on the jet and all of that sort of stuff. So you play a gig somewhere, and then you'll fly to the next place. And then you'll get there at 5 a.m. and, get up. And then sometimes there's a gig that evening and you do the same thing. And, most of the band are probably, sort of in their 30s, maybe some are in their 40s. And we're all absolutely fucked. Tom's coming out and he's just fine. I don't think, I think there's been one show that he's cancelled because he's had a problem with his voice. But apart from that, like, he just, it makes me laugh when they do gigs with other people and they sort of lose their voice after one song or something, or they're like, oh, my voice, I've got to protect it. Whereas Tom's just kind of, I don't know, he's just got this incredibly powerful voice. It's amazing when you're sat next to him, like in a rehearsal room or in his dressing room or something, and you've got to run through a song with him, and you sort of sit next to him, and then you hear this voice comes out, and it's almost like you can feel your hair kind of like every bone in your body. Do you know what I mean? It's pretty magnificent.
That's awesome, man. He's not a young guy. How old is he? His 70s?
79.
That's amazing. Good for him. God bless him, man. Do women still throw panties on stage?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think some of them are quite big. Like grannies.
Doesn't make him a bad person.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's yeah, I don't know. I guess he's from that era of almost like James Brown or someone like that. They just work really hard. Do you know what I mean? Like the work ethic is different.
Yeah.
It's like, because sometimes I do sort of think, like, how does he keep going? But I think it's just because it's just what he does.
That's just what he's wired like that, isn't? Yeah.
As far as he's concerned, he's built to sing, and that's what he does, and he'll always do.
It was interesting. I saw this clip on Facebook. I don't usually post a lot of stuff on there, but it was so great I had to share it. It was Tom singing with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that? It was singing "It's Been a Long Time Coming," and oh my God, what? Yeah. It's just like, you don't think of Tom hanging with those guys, but he could hang with anybody. And obviously was hip on all the kinds of music, just because he was a pop guy. It was the music of the day. And this is 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's still kicking it.
I think that's from his TV show. I think he used to have, I think he had a TV show. I think it went out in America.
Yeah, Tom Jones show. Yeah, it was like every Sunday night or something. Yeah, he had the Tom Jones show here for a while.
Yeah, so I think and there was a lot of, and I think he only agreed to do, he'd have certain acts, the pop acts of the day would sing on there as well, but only if he was allowed to have people like Jerry Lee Lewis on, or Little Richard, or, people that he wanted to be on there, But there's some amazing footage of him. I'm sure it's all on YouTube. And he's singing with like Ella Fitzgerald, Crosby, Stills, Nash.
Incredible, man. And it's really cool. He should feel good because you look at him, he looks great. Not much different. And all these guys, maybe not so much, Yeah. Again,
I think that's just his Welsh roots,
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
No, I was just saying he's just a, I remember asking him once about, there's a video of him singing with Stevie Wonder. Stevie's only young, so it must have been like late 60s or something, and they do it's a little medley, but they're doing like Uptight, I think it's called. Uptight. Baby,
yeah,
everything is all right. And I was like, weren't you nervous? Like, it's like Stevie Wonder, And he was like, no, I went easy on him.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Just having that confidence.
Yeah.
Tom must have been young then as well. He must have only been.
Well, if he's 80 now almost, so he was born in 38 or 39, let's say, or something like that. So in the late 60s, he was 30 himself.
Yeah,
or earlier.
I think he always had that confidence.
That's great.
His voice, I just thought that was funny, just saying that he went easy on.
That is great.
Went easy on.
And as I understand, he's been in like a 50-year marriage too, or like well, his wife passed away. Oh my God!
A couple of years ago, I think now, because we were on tour in. We were in the Philippines when it happened. So the tour got cancelled and we came home.
God.
But yeah, I think that affected him. Obviously, yeah.
God.
But they were together for. I think they would. I don't know much about it, but I think that they were together since they were about 16.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's terrible. Man. I'm so sorry to hear that. Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy journey they must have been on, as a couple, and coming from a little place in Wales where they were next door neighbours and childhood sweethearts and stuff to
Tom Jones. That's awesome, man. Man, 2 more questions, Scott. Most embarrassing or funniest thing that's ever happened to you on stage or in the studio?
There's definitely been some embarrassing. I did have one thing where I had to start a song. I'm not going to say who it was with or anything because it's still embarrassing. But I had to start the song, and it was a chord progression that was like, E minor, E minor, A, or whatever. And I kept hearing, I was hearing it wrong. So I was like hearing just like E minor, A. I was changing too quickly, but I didn't realize. So I'm starting it. It was a really slow song in this festival. So, sort of spotlight on me kind of thing as I'm starting this song. Really sensitive moment. And everyone's looking at me, sort of like bass players kind of trying to signal, you're playing it wrong, stay on E longer. And I'm like, what?
You're oblivious to what's going on.
Yeah, and I was totally oblivious to it for the whole song, and it was like an 8-minute song.
Oh my God, that's funny.
And then someone explained to me afterwards what had happened, and I couldn't believe it. I don't know what, I think I was just in the wrong headspace, and I was I've never let it happen again since. But maybe you need one of those things to happen so that it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
But I think, like, statistically, it's impossible not to have. How many thousands of times have you played on stage?
Yeah.
It's like impossible just from a numbers standpoint to not have something like that happen, I think.
Yeah, I think that sometimes with Tom, like, where I've played with him for about 4 years now, and there's certain songs that I start, or certain songs that are just guitar or whatever. And I kind of go, I must have played this song with him 65, 70 times. And you sort of start thinking, right, then, the percentage of me fucking it up is getting,
Oh, you're worried about you catching up to you now.
We're in the hundreds now, and you think, right, okay, lights are down. Let's go for it. And you're thinking, don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up. And then sometimes your mind starts drifting. You think, you could be thinking of anything whilst you're playing. You could be thinking, is my guitar in tune? What am I having for dinner? What's, oh, I've got this bill to pay. I've got to pay the rent. There's all these things that are going through your head. Normally you can channel out and just focus on the music, but sometimes you just end up thinking of something, or you start laughing, or But generally, touch wood, I've been okay.
Are you playing your Strat on that gig?
I play the copy. Mostly,
okay.
Yeah. But I can't. To be honest, there's about 9 guitars on that gig, because there's a lot of Tom's more recent stuff is
different tunings.
Different tunings, yeah. So the last couple of albums he's done have been with a guy called Ethan Johns, who's really, really cool producer. Whose dad was Glyn Johns.
I was thinking that, yeah, that's a lot. So for the Stones, wow. Yeah.
So and it's really rootsy kind of stuff, bluesy stuff, country stuff. So there's a lot of kind of 12 strings, open tunings like capos and slide playing and stuff like that. And me and the other guitarist, a guy called Simon Johnson, we kind of cover that between us. But the thing is there's just not time to retune a guitar, so you end up having like 15 guitars on the side of the stage or something.
Are you on the records as well?
No, I haven't played on the records. They were kind of all recorded before you
came on board.
I don't think he's released anything since I've been doing the band, but I'd love to. Yeah.
Well, dude, it's interesting. I interviewed Billy Joel's guitarist, Tommy Burns, and they haven't made an album in 28 years.
28?
Yeah. And he has a sold out gig at Madison Square Garden once or twice a month.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice to be Billy Joel.
Yeah.
But that's his hometown.
Released any new music or anything?
28 years.
Wow.
Well, Tommy's been with him 28 years. I think that's how long he hasn't released an album. He probably made the last album right before Tommy joined.
Wow.
Hey, man, last question. Anything that you do to make sure you're getting the most out of life and just enjoying every day as much as possible?
I think having a good sense of humor, to me, is like, one of the main things. Even with gigs and tours and doing sessions and stuff like that, I think it sounds a bit cheesy, doesn't it? But having a laugh.
No, man, I think why not, man? Life's too short.
Yeah, I don't know. What kind of thing do you mean? Like, what? Just like
I don't know. Just like certain people have things that they make sure they're doing, because there's they want to make sure they're getting the most out of every day. Maybe like somehow forcing yourself to be in the present, or stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm still looking for that thing.
That's a very valid answer. Yeah, I think to some extent we all are. Because even when you have it, it's like, okay, I could do it better.
Yeah. I think I'm still looking for something that kind of takes away the sort of day-to-day anxiety. Just getting through stuff. I guess
meditation. A lot of guys meditate.
Yeah, just being in the now and not focusing too much on the future or too much on the past. I think you can almost get, especially with social media and stuff, I find it hard to kind of switch off from what other people are doing or what I feel like I should be doing or what I'm not doing. But I always feel, I think that's why it comes back to me. Just play guitar for me is a bit like, sounds cheesy, but meditating in some respects, because it's the only time I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
Really. It's when I'm playing guitar. And that's kind of why I feel like I just, it's a very selfish thing for me playing music and playing guitar, because it just feels good. And it's the one time when generally when I'm playing guitar, I'm not worrying about anything else.
You can't be. It's funny you say that, because I've only been playing guitar 3 years, man. But I was a musician as a kid. I played saxophone. But the reason I love it so much is because of what you just said. I can't be in the past. I can't be in the future. I've got to be right there. And it has helped me shift that to other areas of my life because of that. Yeah. Cause it's such a free feeling. And I'm like, wow, this is great. Fuck it. I'm doing this with everything.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I would imagine it's why, most musician friends I know that play from their soul, play from their heart, it's something that is just, it doesn't get any better. So, and most musicians I know are there's things going on in their head, and there's, they're not simple people. And they can't,
creatives.
Yeah. Creative people, and they can't necessarily put into words how they feel. So it comes out through, a lot of musicians I know are quite shy people, I think, when it comes down to it, or maybe not the most confident people. I think, if you were really confident at school, for example, or you were really confident as a human, you maybe wouldn't feel the need to do music or something, because you'd kind of, like, I think most musicians I know are a bit fucked up. That's why they need music.
Well, I think most of them would agree with you. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah, but I don't really have any wisdom on that front, because I don't feel like I've found the answer to sort of having a day-to-day.
We're all looking for that, man.
Yeah, I could say something cheesy like, "Yeah, just get up and go for a run."
Do you do that? Do you do that?
I try not to, but yeah, sometimes I do, and it helps.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah. I'm in the gym like 5 days a week. That helps me out. I've been doing that for years, and I think that's probably saved me killing somebody or something like that.
Yeah, it's probably like really simple things like moving and eating well, and getting off your phone and all that sort of stuff. But it seems harder and harder to do, to be honest.
It's like everything else, man. You got to put effort into it. It's like playing guitar. If I've sat there and said, "Oh, I'm not playing as good as well," am I practicing every night? No. It's, dude, I can't thank you enough for your time. I really enjoyed talking with you. Let me tell people where they could find you. First of all, Scott's band is called, he's got a bunch of stuff going on, but his last album came out with, the band is Rufus Black, Rufus Black. And the name of the album is Rise Up. You can find it on iTunes and Bandcamp. And on Bandcamp, you could listen to a lot of it. He is coming out with a record of his own. Is that when? Next year?
Next year, yeah. Yeah, we're just finishing it up at the moment.
So it's recorded, you're just mixing it now? And mastering?
Yeah, more overdubs to do.
Awesome, man. And hopefully he'll come on the show and talk about it. You can find him on Instagram at Scott McKeon. It's Scott, SCOTT MCKEON. And I didn't realize this, but if you are interested in a great blues player who plays other things, and you're looking for lessons, Scott gives lessons for intermediate and above players, like if you're looking for something specific and you need to get a third party to give you some objective help with it. And you can go to the contact form on his website. Is that scottmckeon.co.uk?
I think it's .com.
Okay, great. scottmckeon.com. Scott, SCOTT, McKeon, MCKEON.com. Anything else I forgot, man, or left out?
I think that's it. I think that's the most I've ever spoke about. A lot of that stuff. So,
well, that's cool, man. I really appreciate you sharing it here, man. And I look forward to having you on again. And we'll see you in 5 years and see where Scott McKeon 2.0 is at, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. Tell Tom I said, hey.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it with a friend on your social media channels. We really appreciate your support and help. Thanks so much to Scott McKeon for spending time with us. We really appreciate it. And please check him out online. Rufus Black is the name of his band, and the name of the album is Rise Up on iTunes and Bandcamp. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. That's what it's all about, man. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.